Hello everyone, welcome to Google Hangouts. It is the KEOSTER, K. I'm here and I'm live. It is KEOSTER Live, it is CKTV for YouTube, and I'm here to talk some topics. I'm going to talk about the world of film, I'm going to talk about the world of wrestling, professional wrestling, and some aspects of entertainment tonight. We're live here on YouTube, and we're going to be I'm going to make this into a more presentable video then after that for replays and stuff. But this is my first attempt at doing a Google Hangout. I used to do Ustream, which was another website of streaming live content, but I decided to try this now because it's a lot of people do it already, of course, but Google Hangouts seems to be the main thing. I would love to get some friends. I tried to get some friends for this one, but that were other experts as well on film and wrestling and stuff, but I don't think many are that interested. I don't know why, but there you go. There's a lot of people around here that wouldn't really do this kind of thing, but I suppose there's a wide lot of people over in the States and different places like that that are mad into this kind of stuff. Probably here as well, but not many that I would know. But it is on CKTV this last few months. I haven't been doing a lot of stuff. I have been kind of putting a lot of YouTube stuff on the back burner lately for no particular reason, just because I haven't had much stuff to come up with and I hadn't had the time and stuff. So I'm getting back into the YouTubing now these days. I'm going to try and do at least one live show every week on YouTube to give my thoughts on different things, current topics, different stuff in the cinema, stuff in the entertainment business. A lot of talk about the wrestling world. We're going to touch on the likes of NXT, the new talent, and some of the great matches happening on NXT at the minute. It's if you like, the step below WWE, but a lot of people are calling the NXT show the greatest show in wrestling at the minute, due to the high flying nature and the great stuff that it entails. The WWE still cooking. It's a lot of good stuff in WWE as well, but the current product just isn't as good as a lot of the other stuff we've had before. I think we could look into talk a bit about Jeff Jarrett's new organization. Of course, he was a founding member of TNA, which is Total Nonstop Action. He now has an organization called GFW, which is Global Force Wrestling. Of course, Wrestle Kingdom 9, which was a few weeks ago, actually had a big event. It was a Japanese wrestling promotion, NJPW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, had a big event, and they included Global Force Wrestling, and it was, of course, the coming together of these two big organizations, and they called it was live in Tokyo, the Tokyo Dome, I believe, and they called it Wrestle Kingdom 9, I think it was. But of course, the Wrestle Kingdom show is the biggest. It's like the WrestleMania of New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that was a big come together of two of the biggest organizations around. In Wrestle Kingdom 9 was, of course, the GFW, GFW, a new upstart organization. I wouldn't call them one of the biggest around yet, but them and New Japan Pro Wrestling. As you may recall, in years gone by, the NJPW and the All Japan Pro Wrestling would have came together with WCW in the 90s and would have delivered a lot of content back then. Like Starrcade 95 is one in particular show that was, they done it like a World Cup of Wrestling and stuff, the two organizations. But fast and forward to current day again, and we can talk about Money in the Bank, the big event that took place just last week, I think, well, a couple of weeks ago. The Money in the Bank pay-per-view, very, very entertaining show. John Cena versus the NXT star Kevin Owens, formerly known as Kevin Steen in Ring of Honor Wrestling. But yes, indeed, a lot of big stuff happening in the world of professional wrestling, and it's always good to see that. Always good to see some good stuff happen. Other things I want to talk on or talk about from the film world is from the movie zone stuff that I do. Some great films out over the summer now. Some great stuff such as Mad Max Fury Road is out. Uh, of course, the original Mad Max series was brilliant. It starred the legendary Mel Gibson. Um, of course, an Australian franchise, Mad Max, and it's probably the most famous Australian franchise in film. Um, Mel Gibson, of course, made his name with Mad Max. He went on to do great films, such a great career. Well, we look at a guy who made his name with films such as Inception and films such as The Dark Knight Rises, uh, and he played Bane, of course, in The Dark Knight Rises. Now he's in Mad Max Fury Road, taking on the role of Mel Gibson's role in that particular film. So yes, indeed, great opportunities for that man, indeed. And he's a British actor, of course. Trying to think of his name here, but it is, when you're live. This is another thing about being live, but he is an excellent actor anyway. Seen him in a film called The Drop there on the film of The Drop. Yes, it was starring. It was the guy from Sopranos' last film, and that was a particularly very good film. I watched that in the cinema. Very interesting storyline based around a Boston pub, and it was very cool stuff indeed. That was James Gandolfini's last big role before his demise. Well, other stuff we can touch on today: Jurassic World, San Andreas, excellent. Looks to be excellent film. I can't wait to see Jurassic World. It's something I haven't went to see it yet, but it is. It looks like something to behold. The fourth in a franchise doesn't usually become a big deal. A lot of the times when the fourth film into a franchise can disappoint a lot of the time. And I think sometimes it can, sometimes it can't. But definitely, I think Jurassic World is I would say, worth a watch. I haven't seen it yet, but I must go and see it at some stage in the next couple of weeks. At San Andreas, it broke all box office records, the world of cinema. It was, of course, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the biggest names in all of cinema at the moment. Of course, he started off in professional wrestling. I remember back in November 1996, I remember Rocky Maivia taking his name from his father, Rocky Johnson, and his grandfather, Peter Maivia. He took his stage name, Rocky Maivia. Of course, the young Dwayne Johnson at the time, and he became Rocky Maivia. And that was a very cheesy type gimmick, as they call it in the wrestling business. It was a cheesy type role, very smiley face kind of guy. Ended up winning and being the so-called sole survivor in that particular match in his debut. And it was a great epic match in Madison Square Garden at the Survivor Series 1996. But yes, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, 20 years, 19 years down the line, he's starring in a film that became massive hit there in the box office, San Andreas. And that's, he's done, I would say, well over 25 films at this stage. The Rock, some small films, some blockbusters. He's shown himself to be a very big name in Hollywood. They reckon he is the highest grossing actor in Hollywood at the minute. And he is, I suppose he's the new Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's what Arnold Schwarzenegger was back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And he really is proven to be a real big deal in the world of film. As much as he was in the world of wrestling, he really did capture the world of professional wrestling. And it was a lot of it was to do with his mic work. The Rock's mic work is immense. He can get the crowd in the palm of his hand, really work them really, really well. And that's what it's all about. delivering on the wrestling world, on the wrestling front, becoming a big deal in wrestling, and it also to deliver a great promo, if you know what I mean. And it also is massive when you're on the camera in a film as well, when you're delivering your lines. So many similarities, and of course, then you would see why am I so interested in all this stuff, because you know at the end of the day there is a lot of similarities in the two things. But The Rock, absolutely one of the top stars. And that film also, which is worth pointing out, San Andreas stars a local actor here from Moville in Donegal in Ireland. And it is, of course, Art Parkinson, who's really making a name for himself as well. He, of course, appeared in that Dracula Untold a while back, and now he's in as a fairly significant role in this San Andreas. So very well done to him, and I hope things prosper for him as the years go on. He was, of course, on a T.G. Cahir show called Maru a while back as well, I believe. So well done to him. But we'll move on now, talk a bit about the Marvel Universe. The Marvel Universe has had so many big twists and turns over the last while, so many big films planned over the next while, with the likes of Spider-Man coming into the Avengers franchise, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he had been a property of Sony for a long time. Spider-Man, of course, the Spider-Man trilogy from the early thousands, and then the Amazing Spider-Man films, the two of them there a couple of years ago. Now these new films that Spider-Man is going to appear in for the Marvel Universe, who've just bought the rights to Spider-Man from Sony, these new films will actually be they will be totally rebooted. I don't know if they're going to do. I hope they don't do the Spider-Man Origins again, because that's been done a lot in the films already for Spider-Man. And I think it was pretty well told in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And I think I didn't like the new ones as much. Although I thought Jamie Foxx's Electro in the second one was a very, very good character. But indeed, I think the Spider-Man franchise, Marvel will probably do a lot more with it. I think with Marvel having the reins for that now, I think it's probably a good thing, because Marvel, of course, Stan Lee and Marvel are the ones that came up with Spider-Man, and it might be better. Also, a lot of talk now with Captain America Civil War, the next Captain America film, being all about, we all know that that's going to be all about Captain America's big rivalry with Iron Man. Of course, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, very, very important character in the Marvel franchise and in the cinematic universe. But you may know, if you're a comic book fan, I've never really followed comic books, but I've done my research since the films started coming out. In the comics, Spider-Man is one of the premier characters in the Marvel universe, whereas in the cinematic universe, Spider-Man is just coming into it now, so it will be very, very interesting to see how his character will play out in this particular Marvel universe and the sequence of events in the Marvel universe. Also in the Marvel universe, we are seeing Guardians of the Galaxy was out last year, and that was a very big deal. Myself and my friend Darren Harkin actually went to see that, and I remember Darren being very big fan of it ever since. He loves that franchise. It's like the Avengers in outer space kind of thing. Another link to wrestling now, Dave Bautista, who's a big name in the history of wrestling. He actually played a great role in the Marvel film, and he is now in that Guardians film, and he is now going to be in the second Guardians movie, which has been announced by James Gunn, and he is really making a big name for himself in Hollywood as well, is Dave Bautista. So that's good to see. So I think a lot of great stuff happening in the Marvel universe. There's talk, of course, about the films after Civil War. Civil War will include a lot of the Avengers. The Avengers Age of Ultron was out a while ago there, and very good reviews for that one. And there's talk now about this new film, Captain America: Civil War, is actually going to be like coming together of all the Avengers again, but it's going to be more focused on obviously Captain America and his feud with Iron Man, and then I suppose some of the Avengers will take sides, and that's how it gets the name of Civil War. Very exciting stuff for film goers. Very exciting stuff for people who just love these superhero movies. Something that will definitely rival Batman versus Superman, which we will talk about in a few minutes. But the Marvel Universe is never short of never short of great things. The Ant-Man movie that's coming out now on the 17th of July looks to be pretty good. Very funny kind of movie. It stars Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, and interestingly enough, it's got a legend starring as the other major character in the film, and we're talking about Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is actually he's one of the characters in the new Ant-Man movie, which is interesting indeed. Surely they're going to make him a villain. He has to be a villain, but I've only seen an interview with him and Paul Rudd talking about it, and there's no real insight into the character yet. I reckon that's going to be quite a good film. Also, there's big news coming through about the X-Men. We know it was an excellent film last year. Went to see it 3 times in the cinema, and that was the X-Men Days of Future Past. And I was totally enthralled by that one. I thought it was an excellent film indeed. Some great stuff in it. Love the bit after the credits where they showed. Now everybody knows at this stage, so I might as well say it. The bit after the credits where they showed the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and stuff like that, with the pyramids of Egypt and that. That was very cool stuff. And that looks like it's going to be a lead on to a X-Men Apocalypse movie. We have heard that on the rumors on the internet since that's going to be the way it will be. X-Men Apocalypse, which is the next one, and that could well be the finishing movie. But they say that just like in the comics, there is a lot of talk about Avengers Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, which is due in, I think it's 2019, 2020, around that time. They are due out, they're planned and all. But in the comics, them films, they are now going to be films, but in the comics, them particular stories included the X-Men. They also included the Guardians of the Galaxy. So if they bring all these Marvel characters together, surely screen time will be something to, everybody wants screen time, and when you've got all them egos, all them big actors together, who the hell knows what could happen there, folks. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what's going to transpire in this world of great stuff, this great cinematic universe from Marvel. I think, they talk about which is the best, which is the greatest. Is it the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or is it the other one, the DC Cinematic Universe? I know there's a load of others as well, but these are the 2 biggies, Marvel and DC. And you got to ask yourselves which is best. I always say I prefer 2 or 3 of the main characters in DC, but all of the characters in Marvel, very, very intriguing characters. I would be very, very excited going forward, very, very excited going forward with these great characters. I think there's some great stuff there from Marvel. I would like to think that we were going to get a lot of great movies in the coming years, and you can only do great things with these franchises, absolutely. But who the hell knows? We could have a DC versus Marvel movie coming in the future, but I wouldn't hold my breath for that one. There's going to have to be a lot of paper signed and money shifted about for that. But the big one that everybody's talking about as well now is the fact that Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice is going to be happening in 2016, May 2016, I believe it's coming out next year, folks. And that's going to be a big, big movie. Ben Affleck playing Batman, of course, Batfleck as they're calling him, or Batfleck, and he's going to be Bruce Wayne Batman for that one, like a slightly older Batman, kind of a weird, kind of older, kind of half-retired Batman is the thing they're aiming for. The Superman, of course, the Superman Man of Steel movie was a fairly big success from, of course, director Zack Schneider, of course, Zack Schneider, who has really proven to be a very good director these days. And he is taking it upon himself now to direct Superman versus Batman, Dawn of Justice, or Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. My opinions is some great stuff happening with this one. A lot of interesting characters. I believe Wonder Woman is going to make an appearance. There's talk of the Flash making an appearance. The Flash and Arrow, or sorry, the Flash has his own show, much like in the Marvel universe. Arrow and the other guy, what's his name? Oh, of course, we know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have their own show. The Flash has his own show, and now Daredevil has his own show in the Marvel universe. So the Flash does in the DC universe. So a lot of great stuff in the DC universe as well as the Marvel universe. I think there's a lot of prospects, a lot of potential for this particular film. Batman v Superman, I think there's a lot of potential there, and I hope it goes well. Another big film on the way from DC in the DC universe is Suicide Squad, and we know some of the great characters going into that one. We know that now becoming a legendary actor, Jared Leto will actually be in the Suicide Squad. He will play the Joker, and we know we haven't seen the Joker on the big screen since Heath Ledger, who died during the making of it back in 2008. And remember, that was a big deal at the time, horrible situation. But yes, indeed, Jared Leto now will play the Joker. And what big shoes to fill when you think of him playing the Joker after such a great performance from that man, Heath Ledger, in The Dark Knight. But, these things have to be brought back and stuff. And with the success of the Gotham TV series, it definitely is worth bringing the Joker into these things, because you can only make from a marketing standpoint, you can only do good things. That only good things can happen for these people bringing out this great content for the fans. And when you bring it out to the fans, everyone's a winner. You're going to make money. You're going to put bums on seats, as they say. Everybody's going to be a winner at the end of it. So I think as long as they keep bringing out the stuff, everybody's going to be entertained, and that's what it's all about, folks. That is what it's all about. Okay, Will Smith also will be appearing in that particular film, Suicide Squad. And the story of that one really is that they're all these villains are. The government brings all these villains together to do a special mission. And I believe there is talk now of Batman appearing, and I've seen a couple of clips on YouTube there of Batman actually, and him on the Joker's car, which was pretty cool. And then Harley Quinn was also in that clip. So there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good characters in there. The Joker and Harley Quinn look a lot different from their past looks and things. So it's going to be very interesting. Also, that's DC and Marvel news for now. We'll be coming back with more of that on my next Google Hangout here, or my next live show. But indeed, the movie world is very, very cool these days. And we'll talk a bit more about the world of professional wrestling. I think the WWE Network, I'm a subscriber to the WWE Network, and I'm really loving it, because it's like all the stuff you've watched for years, and I've went over all that in other videos. Of course, it's such a great product, and for $12.99 a month here in Ireland, and I was subscribing before it came out in Ireland. I was subscribing by other means, and it was $9.99 a month then. But so yeah, it's really, really cool product, but they are giving you a free month every few months now, so to try and bring up the amount of subscribers. But there's 1.3 million now that have subscribed to WWE Network, so it is very feasible for the company and that to keep it running, which is excellent, and that's what you want to hear. Other news from the world of wrestling: the legendary Dusty Rhodes died there last week, which was a very sad state of events. Of course, he was 69 and he wasn't too well. I think he had kidney failure and stuff, and that was very sad. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream, great legend from the world of wrestling, and he will always be remembered. And he was the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, yeah. So yeah, Dusty Rhodes, legend in his own time, and he will be missed in the world of professional wrestling. Also, yesterday, the passing of another wrestling legend, Buddy Landel, the Nature Boy, Buddy Landel, who made a big name for himself in the 80s in the NWA and Florida Championship Wrestling, or the Championship Wrestling from Florida, and he was, of course, in all the different territories, a bit of a journeyman over the 80s and 90s. He landed in the WWF then in the mid-90s when he wrestled Ahmed Johnson at In Your House, and he also had a couple of matches with the likes of Bob Holly on Monday Night Raw, I think it was one, and he's done a few things. Wasn't really involved in any big storylines in WWF in his tenure in the mid-90s, but he was involved in a few big storylines in WCW in the early 90s and the NWA, of course, as I said, in the late 80s. So Nature Boy Buddy Landel, another legend, and going back to Dusty Rhodes, he had such a great career. In the 1970s, he beat Harley Race for the world title, and then he went up against the likes of Ric Flair, and he wrestled Flair as well a few times. Probably wrestled hundreds of times, but I mean in big events. And also people such as, and when he came into the WWF, they changed him. They made him wearing polka dots and stuff, and they had him a whole different. But then because he went from what was pro wrestling, and they treated wrestling like a sport down south in the NWA, and then they came up to the WWF, and it's all about entertainment and sports entertainment and stuff. So they kind of give him a gimmick. And of course, his real name, Dusty Rhodes' real name is Virgil Runnels, and they give him the name of Dusty Rhodes. And of course, they know that was his name in WCW and NWA as well. But he, of course, they give him this. I think the reason they called him, they called the character Virgil from back in the late 80s, early 90s in WWF. I think there was a whole thing about they called him Virgil because of Dusty Rhodes being a really kind of a white guy and a black guy's kind of, a black guy and a white guy's body kind of thing, and he was real. It was really funny the way it all. There is stories about that, you can read up on them, but what I'm getting at is they kind of made fun of Dusty Rhodes in a way in the WWF because he was the main booker for the rival company. But anyway, moving on. Big news as well this last few months with Scott Steiner, of course known as Big Papa Pump. He has made a lot of allegations to Hulk Hogan on the internet. He's been doing a lot of stuff, trying to call Hulk Hogan out, a lot of rivalry there, a lot of bad feeling between the two. And Scott Steiner's but a crazy guy. Like he's known for his drug abuse and stuff as well, and there's a lot of combustible elements there. Him and Hogan aren't seeing eye to eye, and he's trying to bring him out for a real fight and stuff because apparently back when they were both in WCW and stuff, they weren't great buddies or anything. And of course they were both in WWF in the early 90s as well. And they never really seen eye to eye, if you know what I mean. So Steiner and Hogan, it's going to be interesting to see what transpires there. Hopefully there's no damage done in reality there because both men are retired and stuff. And Steiner's very, very much a loose cannon. But anyway, also from the world of professional wrestling, there's news on, of course, ROH, which is Ring of Honor Wrestling, very popular in the States and You can see it online at ROH.com. You can also see it on YouTube and that and their stuff. But it's never had a cable or a big or a main channel kind of thing. It's never had a weekly show on TV in America. So they have I have never followed Ring of Honor myself, but I've often watched the odd clip of it, but I haven't had the time really to follow it. But I hear it's a very good organization, and a lot of the big names like Kevin Owens, who has joined WWE and NXT, and other people who have really made a big name, like AJ Styles, have really been made in Ring of Honor, if you know what I mean. And they're like an indie. They were an indie brand up until 2010, and then the Sinclair Broadcasting Network took over Ring of Honor, and they put them on a few syndicated shows in different cable channels they operated around the States. Like, for example, the way the cable works in America, there's so many cable channels in Dallas, and then if you're in Atlanta or if you're in New York, you have different cable channels. Then the network channels are the bigger channels that are everywhere. But the Sinclair network put them on all the channels they operated on in 40% of America. So that's the way that works. But just there this year, Destination America, which is one of the top networks now in America, one of the new networks, they have put them on 8 o'clock every Wednesday night. So that's big news for ROH and Ring of Honor. Big news. So they will go on before TNA. TNA have just moved to Destination America just last year. They had been on Spike TV, but Spike dropped them, and then they were very desperate. They nearly went out of business, TNA, in Total Nonstop Action, otherwise known as Impact Wrestling. And then they got picked up by the ROH network, the Destination America network, and they now, along with ROH, are filling a 3-hour time slot on Destination America every Wednesday night. Isn't that something else? A wrestling show, wrestling shows for that much on a big network franchise, big network channel. That's unbelievable. Great for the world of wrestling. And then they'll go up against, of course, WWE as well. So there's always these guys, the top brands going up against each other. Always makes for good competition and always makes for good storylines and great stuff as well. For example, it's like Coronation Street going up against EastEnders, going up against whatever's on another channel. They're always vying for pole position in the store on the viewers and the demographics and stuff. It's always good. Also, we can talk a bit about stuff that I've got into on the network recently. Just recently, they added I haven't really been watching much. I watched 1 or 2 episodes. They added Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling, which was, of course, a big deal back in the mid-'80s in America, and then they showed it on TV, children's Saturday morning TV in Ireland, or in UK and Ireland, and that the rest of the world. And that was a good show, very funny show indeed, with all the big wrestlers as cartoon characters and that. So that is now on the network, all the episodes of season 1 of that. Also on the network recently, they added another Stone Cold podcast, and his guest was Paul Heyman, that was a very good podcast. I wrote about it on Facebook, reviewed it a bit and stuff, and it was really interesting. Talked a lot about the industry, talked a lot about what happened back in the day and how Heyman started out, talked about their run. They were both in ECW. Heyman ran ECW, and when Austin left WCW in the mid-90s, he went to ECW before going to WWF at the time. And so very interesting. And of course, it concluded with Heyman challenging Austin with Brock Lesnar, Stone Cold, at WrestleMania 32, which could well happen. And Austin replied with, unless it's a Texas death match, it won't be happening. So that would be cool for WrestleMania 32 in TNT Stadium in Dallas. Well, folks, I'm running out of time here. I've really enjoyed your company. Thank you very much for joining me. It has been the KEOSTER Live right here on CKTV YouTube. Thank you very much, folks. All the best. KEOSTER. over and out.